This letter isn't found in any official archive. You won't see it cited in universities or academic papers. Even lifelong scholars of Carl Gustav Jung rarely, if ever, mention it. Instead, it lives in whispered conversations passed quietly among those who believe that science doesn't have all the answers. Jung, founder of analytical psychology, the man behind archetypes, and the collective unconscious, someone who saw the soul as more than a poetic idea, once had a near-death experience. And what he described after coming back doesn't fit into any textbook understanding of consciousness. It happened in the spring of 1944. Jung was in critical condition in a hospital after suffering heart failure. At one point, doctors noted his heart had stopped. Silence for several minutes. And according to Jung, that's when everything changed. He didn't just pass out, he left his body. In a letter to a Swiss colleague referred to only as H.E. Jung, detailed what he saw. That letter remained hidden for decades in a private collection, only surfacing when H.E.'s grandson, late in life, shared a copy with a filmmaker. Jung described hovering high above the earth. Everything from his past faded, no pain, no fear, no time. He saw a blue sphere, a planet that looked just like the NASA images that didn't exist yet. He knew it was Earth, but it felt distant, almost unfamiliar. Something pulled him farther deeper. What came next would shake even the most die-hard skeptics. He entered what he called a space beyond description. It resembled a temple, ancient, immense, made of light, not glowing, but built out of light itself. In that moment, Jung realized everything he thought of as consciousness was just a shadow, a small reflection of something far greater. He encountered a presence not quite an angel, not human either, something deeply powerful yet profoundly intimate. It didn't speak, but its thoughts flowed into him like waves of warmth and clarity. Jung wrote that he was shown life isn't just a series of events for the ego, but a kind of school for the soul. Death, he realized, isn't an ending, it's a doorway. Can you feel that? Like a heavy, dusty door creaking open? Just a bit more, and maybe we could see what lies on the other side. But Jung didn't get to stay. He heard the doctor calling, felt pressure on his chest. He was back. He later admitted he didn't want to return. And then came the line that lingers. What I saw is not a metaphor. It is a reality we are not prepared for. Why didn't he talk about this publicly? Why hide it? Because he knew the world wasn't ready. Not in the 1940s. A scientist like him couldn't afford to be accused of chasing mysticism. His work, his name, everything he had built could have been destroyed with a single word. In that very letter now locked away in a private archive in Basel, he confessed, "If I had spoken of this, then they wouldn't have understood. They might have thought I'd lost my mind, but I didn't. What I saw, it was the truth that frightens the intellect." You feel that chill, right? This isn't just some text. It's a testimony, someone's voice from beyond the veil. Jung believed his experience wasn't rare. He said thousands of others had felt something similar, but stayed silent. Through ancient myths, through patient dreams, shamanic stories, he saw the same symbols again and again, references to that temple of light. He even mentioned a phrase never used in his official writings, the space between worlds. What was he getting at? A poetic metaphor? Or was he describing a real place, a kind of borderland between life and death? One part of the letter stands out more than the rest. Jung recalled seeing faces people he didn't know in this life, but recognized deep down. Souls. One was his father, another was a child he never had. His thoughts became clear like glass. He wasn't recalling memories, he was remembering who he truly was beyond his biography. He called it total recognition. No words, no signs, just knowing, pure and undeniable. And yet it gets even stranger. Before he came back, Jung saw a vision of the future. At first he didn't understand it. But back in his hospital bed, feverishly scribbling notes, He realized it was a glimpse of humanity's distant future. And this part, pay attention, he saw that one day, the veil between worlds would thin. People would start to sense more, perceive more. And while that might sound freeing, it wouldn't be without risk. As reality's fabric begins to tear, not everyone will be able to handle it. Some will lose their grip, others will wake up. Does it sound like a prophecy? Or maybe a warning? Jung knew this letter wasn't something he should ever publish. He even thought about burning it, but instead he left a condition: let it be read only when the world draws close to the edge. And now, almost 80 years later, here we are. But what exactly did he witness in that glimpse of the future? What did the world look like to him? Why did his hand shake when he described the end of that vision? Curious. From this point, it only gets deeper. He never spelled it out plainly. He didn't write. This is what's coming. Jung understood the power of metaphor, but in this letter he went a little further. He described the future as a place filled with light but missing shadow. Then he added something strange: where there's no shadow, there's no depth. What was he trying to say? In his vision, the future looked like a perfect mirror with no reflection. Everything visible, everything exposed, nothing left to mystery. People were free, but disconnected. I saw a world where death had become transparent, he wrote, but something vital had disappeared with it. Pain loss, forgetting it, was all wiped clean. But without those things, the soul lost its gravity. As if he was suggesting that suffering is part of the soul's journey, that without darkness, light means nothing. Still, in that place between life and death, he felt a peace he said was impossible to feel on earth. At one point, he was told he could ask a single question. Just one. So he asked, "What is truth?" The answer didn't come in words. It came as an image. He saw a tree, its roots sinking into darkness, its branches blazing with fire. Truth, he realized, isn't just knowledge, it's growth. It's pain that's been accepted and transformed. It's the darkness that's been turned into light. You feel that? That's not just some philosophy, it hits something raw and real inside. But Jung wasn't allowed to stay. He felt himself being pulled back toward life. He begged, "Please let me stay. Down there everything's broken, so much fear, so much confusion." But a quiet voice, steady and final, said, "Not yet." And so slowly, and with pain, he returned. Back to the hospital bed in 1944. Back to the bright lights and the sharp smell of medicine. He survived, but he was never the same. He didn't try to make it a big deal. He didn't go on tour with his story. He understood something: everyone awakens in their own time. But from that moment on, his writings were filled with hints, symbols tucked between the lines. If you know where to look, you'll feel the echo of that experience. And this letter, it's like a key not for the masses, but for those who are already searching. He ended it with a sentence that lingers long after you read it. When you arrive there, no one will ask who you were. They'll ask, how much of your true self did you become? So now it's your turn. Have you ever stopped to wonder who you are beneath the masks, the fears, the routine? What's left when everything you've used to define yourself disappears? Jung saw the answer. He knew. But the question is, are you ready to know it too? After that experience, he couldn't go back to living the same way. He once wrote, "I came back, but part of me stayed behind." And sometimes in the dead of night, he would hear a voice, soft like wind outside a window, but far too alive to be just a dream. He started digging. Into alchemy, into the mysteries of ancient Greece, into Kabbalah. To him, all of these were humanity's attempts to map the structure he had seen beyond the physical. But the most unsettling part is what he didn't say outright. Just a fleeting line. He hinted at a force, something he encountered beyond the veil. In the letter, he said, "Not everything past the threshold is light. There are those who watch, who weigh, who won't let you pass until you've crossed your own reckoning." He never used words like demon or evil. He was careful. But he described presences that made his soul freeze. Not to scare, but to awaken. He came to realize that coming back to Earth wasn't a punishment. It was a chance. He had a bit more time to share, to warn, to plant seeds. "I'm not a teacher," he wrote. "I'm just a messenger from the edge." And here comes the most important part. In the final lines, as if his hand was trembling while he wrote them, Jung left a subtle clue. Nothing blunt, nothing obvious. But if you really pay attention, something stirs between the lines. He wrote, "If you're reading this, then you've already heard the call. It's soft, like a breath in a dream, but you'll know it when it comes. And if you don't turn away, you'll be guided. Don't be afraid." Do you get it? This isn't about Jung, it's about us. Everyone at some moment hears a crack in the ordinary world. Maybe it's illness, maybe a loss, a strange dream that lingers, a presence felt when you're alone. Jung would say that's the invitation, the beginning of something real. The real question isn't, do you believe in the beyond? The real question is, when it knocks, will you open the door? And now here it is, the last fragment of the letter. It wasn't part of the main letter, more like an afterthought. A small, worn page tucked in separately like a whisper, meant just for the one who dares to look closer. Faded ink. Only a few lines. But those words carried more weight than everything else. Truth isn't knowledge. It's a moment, a real one. No masks, no labels. Just you standing bare with everything unnecessary burned away, and only your real self left behind. And you, the one reading this right now, are you ready for something like that? After this letter, Jung never spoke of the experience again. He kept working, kept writing, kept helping patients and giving lectures. But deep inside, he already knew. The real record of what happened wasn't in his books. It was written somewhere else at the edge where two worlds meet. And when you read this letter, it's strange. It doesn't feel like it was written for some colleague or academic. It feels like it was written just for you. Yes, you, the one who made it to this point. And then the question hits not as a figure of speech, but something very real. What if it's true? What if there really is a thin veil between this life and whatever comes after? And what if beyond that veil, there's no darkness at all, but a light so overwhelming, so true, that you want to turn away not because it's frightening, but because it's too real? Jung saw it. But he wasn't trying to convince anyone. He simply said, go find out for yourself. The truth isn't in ideas or theories, it's in lived experience. Over 80 years have passed since he wrote those words. But have we really changed? Are we less afraid of death? Have we come any closer to understanding who we really are? Or are we more lost than ever, buried in distractions, running faster toward nothing? Jung warned that a time would come when the veil between worlds would grow thinner. And when it does, those who aren't ready will suffer, not because they weren't warned, but because real truth burns before it heals. He wrote that once someone has glimpsed their soul, they can't lie to themselves anymore. They might try. They might keep quiet, pretend nothing happened, but inside something has shifted. A bell has rung, and you can't unhear it. And now silence, because there's nothing more to add. The letter ends. But it doesn't feel like an ending, does it? It feels like something is just beginning. Because the real journey doesn't happen out there, it begins inside. Jung only opened a door. Whether you walk through it, that's your path. If you've made it this far, if your pulse feels just a little quicker, if something inside you stirred even slightly, then maybe, just maybe, you've already started walking that path. It doesn't matter how old you are. Doesn't matter what you believe, or whether you believe at all. If you're searching, it means something or someone is already waiting for you. Jung once said the point isn't to run from death. The point is to go through it and finally see who you really are. So now close your eyes. Don't be afraid. Just ask yourself honestly, am I living the way I would if I truly believed my soul would live on? Because maybe right now someone on the other side is watching, waiting. And if these words touched something deep inside you, don't keep that to yourself. Leave a comment. Did you feel it too? Or just leave a sign, anything to let those who come after know they're not alone. And if you want to keep going on this journey, hit like. Not because it's just a button, but because it's a quiet gesture. A way of saying, I'm here. I hear you. Because the truth is, we're all a little lost. But when we find each other, we begin to see a little clearer. See you at the edge of worlds.